All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of 3A Composites Live Learning, all about retail, navigating what's sure to be kind of a crazy holiday season here in 2021. Joining me, us, as always, is Hannah Wells behind the scenes. Not with us today, but we're thinking about him, is Doug Twitchell. We look forward to seeing you on here next month, my friend. And then my name is Alan Plunkett, Director of Retail Design and Sustainability at 3A Composites. And with us today, we have our first repeat guest on our 3A Composites Live Learning, backed by popular demand, my good friend Steve Turner from the GPD Group. Steve, I'll let you talk about yourself a little bit for a second, and then we'll get to the agenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. Thrilled to be here. Appreciate it. And hopefully somebody can take some good nuggets out of the session today. Steve Turner, I'm with GPD Group. I head our business development strategy practice for our multi-unit, but I'm also involved in a lot of our other segments like convenient care, healthcare, some of our energy and power stuff going on, et cetera, and playing a big role in a lot of those ways. So privy to what's going on in the retail space. Have been in the market a long time, longer than I would like to state, but pleasure to be here. Look forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah, that's great. And what Steve said right on, the whole purpose why we do this every month is so everybody that takes the time to tune in can put something in their bag, maybe learn something new to take to their customers, be a little more valuable, especially, as we're right in, as far as retail concerned, we're right in the middle of the holiday season. So first I want to start out with just a couple of quick facts that I find interesting, and then Steve and I will start to talk about why this is looking to be a holiday season that we've not seen before. The good news is NRF, and Steve will expand on this in a minute, but NRF is anticipating that there will be an increase of 10.5 to 13.5% in consumer spending this year over last year, and last year was a record year. So it's going to certainly be a high volume holiday season. And then whatever business you're in, I'm sure you've seen the effects of rising costs. Moving back to April, it's the largest inflationary period since I was a young kid in high school with no gray hair and a lot thinner back then. But this is the highest period of rising costs that we've seen since then. One of the amazing statistics that came out is logistics alone. If you tried to bring anything, a container in from overseas, or just ship a truckload of something around throughout the country, you've seen 300, 200, whatever percent increase. Logistic increase alone for this holiday season is going to be 163 billion to our retailers that of course will pass along to everyone else. But to put it in perspective, that 163 billion is roughly the gross domestic product of the country of Peru itself, and that's just rising costs on logistics to the United States. So there's a lot of things, a lot of factors that are going to make this a unique holiday season. We're here to try to help you get out in front of it, be more valuable than you already are to your customers. For what's the most important time of the year for them. So I'll hand it off first to Steve to let him start the topic and some of the stuff he's seeing with the people he talks to.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy market. I mean, that revenue really looks like about 4.4 billion or trillion, excuse me, up different. And online growth is growing at about an 18 to 23% pace as well. So let's not forget about that. That's going to represent like $1 to $1.13 trillion in sales this year. So pretty crazy. I really think that we've got a perfect storm, and that's the reason we're seeing such an increase. We've got a consumer group that's pent up demand, and in my opinion, they're taking it outside the home. We've been pent up with COVID and everything else, and now everybody, unfortunately, we're seeing the Delta variant and some of the spiking back up, which may actually have a negative effect on things coming forward. Hopefully not. We'll knock on wood, but the pent-up demands push people outside. People want to get out. They want to be outside. They're flush with stimulus money and return to work. A lot of us have returned to work, and we're at our offices now, so we're going out to lunch and we're finding ways of spending money. And in retail and restaurant sales are up, and that's a good thing for all of us. But I think that's a big piece of what's driving that. And I would say consumer behaviors continue to keep changing as well. And that's why you're seeing this mix of business. I mean, a lot of people say that COVID COVID was, detrimental to the industry and had a big change. I just think it was an enabler and an accelerator in the market. Companies that weren't remarkable and didn't have a good experience and were kind of on the fence, it just kind of sped things up, unfortunately for them. But those that are doing a great job, I think, are capitalizing on that. And I think you're seeing that retail sales across the board. If you look at the last quarter for Target, Walmart, Kohl's, Best Buy, the Home Depot, CVS, Walgreens, even Macy's, even our hometown heroes, Big Lots, are knocking it out of the park. A lot of those are value retailers, and I always say, value is always in style. Doesn't matter what your pocketbook is or what your income is. Values in style. People like getting a value for their money. And I think all this is perpetuating the market right now. So it's all good things. I think it's going to be a good holiday season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And value is recession proof, one of the things they say. And a little to your point about people spending out of the home, one of our webinars from late last year was we called it Home for the Holidays, where last year's more people were spending money from home and more people were spending money on their home than had ever before. So this year is completely the opposite. They did that last year, and it's to what Steve said. This year they're going outside of the house, which is great. And one of the things that's always confused me is Steve said about some of the speeding up the demise of certain people. I never understand why some of the people, I won't name the retailers, but they just refuse to make any changes during the entire pandemic era, and they're the ones, unfortunately, that haven't fared too well. And some of the specific changes that I'm seeing that are a little bit different coming this year. I just got back from Retail X 2 hours ago, landed and got back to my home office here, was up in Chicago, and across the board, one of the different trends that we're looking at this holiday season, no matter who the retailer is, whether it's an apparel, a big box, grocer, whatever it is, some of the things that are different is it's the end of Black Friday. As we know it, we're not going to see people camping out, shopping in their pajamas. That day is gone. Even stores are closing now on Thanksgiving, where Black Friday had become such a fad that stores were actually opening on Thanksgiving. Now everybody's going to close up. Part of the reassessment of people as individuals during the pandemic is, more family time. So I think that's a great thing. I love retail, spend your money, but it's nice to see people home. And then the length of the holiday season is going to be a lot longer than it was before. Everybody is planning on October 1st, almost unilaterally across the board. October 1st is now the beginning of the holiday season. And instead of seeing, one or two big holiday sales, we're just going to kind of see a bumpy campaign after campaign. Typical retailer might run 2 campaigns during the holiday season with large volumes. We might see 4, 5, or 6 on the PSP side. You might see 4, 5, or 6 smaller campaigns, more targeted. But somebody called it marketing on the fly. It's kind of how they're doing it this year, as opposed to having a strategic plan moving in. So it's going to change some things. People aren't going to be sleeping in tents on night before Thanksgiving or on Thanksgiving night. So I'll turn the next one over to Steve.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you talked about is even being driven by the larger piece of the business being non-store and online as well, is stretching that out. And I think they're realizing that it's a constant. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hit every day, multiple times a day, by multiple different retailers on my phone, on my email, and everything else with deals all the time. So I expect it all the time. I don't ever expect to pay retail or full price for anything. And I expect free shipping and all these things that are changing consumer behavior. To that point, the different needs of consumer behavior is really having a huge impact on. And I would take a little bit of exception to curbside and BOPUS, saving the day. I believe it's super important, and I wouldn't say saving the day. I would say that reality is that consumer behaviors and expectations have changed, and the way they interact with retailers has changed forever. It was going this way. It got escalated this way, that consumers want to interact with a brand at any given time the way they want to interact, and they expect that interaction to be consistent, and they expect it to be easy and intuitive and guided, with signs if it's BOPUS, or if it's some other offer or some other journey. And I really believe that for them to succeed, they need to evaluate every single touch point
Yep.
and make sure that they are optimized, intuitive, guided, and providing an exceptional experience that makes it easy for the customer. Otherwise, we had talked before that there's not a lot of loyalty right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, People
Yeah.
care what the brand stands for. They care what the price is. The quality of the product, that sort of thing. So all this is here to stay. There's BOPUS, curbside, and everything, and it's the way customers want to interact with a brand at any given time.
Yep.
Um,
And like you say, the brands are hearing that, and they are re-examining every little aspect of nook and cranny of the physical space or the outdoor space. I know you're working with one large retailer on their BOPUS curbside pickup. One of the stats that shocked me that I heard in researching for this is at the start of the pandemic, 15 to 18% of consumers, speaking to customer expectations and the rapid acceleration of change of customer expectation, at the beginning of the pandemic, they 15 to 18% of consumers expected a sleek and smooth BOPUS or curbside pickup. Now it's 85%. 85% of customers expect to go in and have no glitches. They were forgiving for a while, but they expect by now that whoever the retailer is, that they have their system down pat at this point.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the accelerator. I think things were moving this direction anyway, and consumers gave brands a lot of leeway and a lot of a hall pass, if you will, for an unexceptional experience. But now that they've been pressed to do this and people are spending a lot of time and money utilizing these channels, are saying enough is enough. If you don't have it down by now, you're probably not going to get there. And if you don't, you better get there quickly. Otherwise, others are going to eclipse you.
Yeah.
So,
and funny enough, you mentioned that we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but last night in Chicago, while the booth was being torn down, I got a chance to spend some time with someone who just wrote a book that's getting ready to. It's called How to Create an Exceptional Experience in the Store. And he had an interesting fact that 80 to 85% of customers' experiences in the store are meh kind of experiences. They're not positive. They're just there. And how only 30% of the time are going to go to social media and talk about a bad experience. But 50% of the time when they have a good experience, they'll go talk about that experience online. But all you ever see is the negative experiences. And why is that? Because there's more negative and meh, as he calls them, experiences than there are actual positive experiences. So we need to figure out a way to bring people up out of that. There's too much average experiences, and then once you do that, the good experiences will drown out what you hear about bad experiences. And an ever increasing form of marketing is word of mouth and social media reviews and such. So definitely a different change in where we're headed.
absolutely. If it was easy, everybody'd be there and everybody'd be doing it, but it's not. So I think that the fact that it's not easy, I think brands need to look at the operational aspects of their business.
Yep.
And be empathetic to the customer and really look at it from a different perspective. I think a lot of times the operations of the business hinders their ability to put solutions in place that really benefit and create exceptional experiences for the audience or for the customer. And sometimes you got to alter your operations to accommodate a better experience. And I think they need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Make them mesh in, definitely, because they're the supporting back end of the business, but they can't hamper that. And I think they have for years. It's been more operationally focused than it has been customer focused. And I think they just need to put themselves in the customer's shoes and figure out, would this be a great experience for me? Because if you can't answer that as a positive, then how do you expect your customers to love that experience?
That's absolutely awesome. And one of the things in his book is right with what you were just saying. Now, this blows me away, but being a sales guy and marketing people on here, his stat was 82% of sales and marketing people believe that they are meeting their customers' expectation. 90% of customers believe their brands are failing them on their expectation.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of listen to
Little bit
your customers, and what Steve just said is the absolute truth. Is, obviously there's a little disconnect there on where some of the uh, reality is.
Absolutely.
And then I also want to touch a little bit on kind of an interesting thing is we've all gone through employee shortages. Whether you go into a restaurant, there's not enough employees, or your own company, there's not enough employees. Just a little quick thing on how expectations of employees are changing due to the expectations of the customers changing. So we're looking at pickers, what used to be floor associates that would come around and, can I help you? Can I pick something? You want to try that on? Those kind of people, those kind of employees now. 75% of retailers are in search of pickers for online purchases. They can't get enough people to do that, or specifically grocery. They can't get enough people to do the online shopping. Return specialist within the store, is kind of a new position that wasn't, or accelerated, as Steve always says, it's really an accelerated position that has come along in the last year. And then even brand loyalists within the store, people working on making you more loyal to their online brand while you're inside the brick and mortar portion of their business. So I don't know if Steve wants to jump on any of that, but that's a little something different for now than what we've seen in the past.
I mean, it's back to the comment I made before. I mean, the operations need to change in order to support the customer expectations, and brands need to consider that, and they need to just tear things apart. They also need to, I think, look forward too. I mean, it's the old statement by Gretzky: you got to be where the puck's got to be, not where it is. Because if you go where it is, you're going to be left behind, because it's going to be way out in front of you. And I think that brands need to really think about the customer experience and lead. Get out there and lead them. Customers aren't going to always tell you what they want and what they need. They're going to tell you what they like and what they don't like, but they're not always able to tell you what they need or where they want to go. And you can try different things. I mean, I'm not saying flavor du jour, but you can try different things that with a calculated risk that put yourself out there to create an experience and be different and be exceptional to the point where it causes a positive reaction to them, for them, and a reason for them to come and a reason for them to come back and stay. So, but I mean, it's a whole change in retail. It's a whole mindset. I mean, it starts at, I think, leadership inside the store has to motivate these employees to want to interact with customers in different ways and be pickers. And I know I won't mention brand names, but we've been watching the last year that the majority of the people in one of the grocery stores that we go to, there are more pickers of pickup orders or deliver to home orders than there are customers buying their own stuff, which I find very interesting, especially in that category that is excelled umpteen-fold in the last year and a half.
That is so true. It's like when I want to pick out an onion, I got to go between two pickers with their carts, just to pick out an onion real quick. And then they look at me like I'm doing something wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. With their headsets in, not paying attention.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a different world we live in. The other thing another thing I want to touch on that kind of was a little bit of a shock to me is the impact of this thing last year. Kind of a crazy little invention, but the impact it had in retail of last year, the year that was. I don't refer to it by name, so I call it the year that was last year. But believe it or not, we all know it was a great online presence last year for various reasons, people being stuck at home. But this thing alone accounted for 50% of all online sales, not the computer, not anything else, not the smart tablet, not the rise of the smartphone in the world of actually purchasing. That just blew me away. That it went, because when I do it, I'm an old man. I do it on a computer. I don't think about doing it but obviously the younger generation has a way with it. And I actually had lunch yesterday by accident with the company at Retail X that is capitalizing on that. And one of the interesting things they said regarding that when we started talking about that fact is companies are now moving away from, how you go, if you have a customer service issue, you go to the online chat with the company, and now you sit there and you wait, and you got to wait for the dot, wait for them to get back to you. Now companies are starting to implement text on demand. with customer service. So you can text and they'll text you back with the number, and then you can put it down, go do something else, come back to the text that they did. They'll send you a link to a help problem. So because of the rise of the smartphone with the purchasing power that it had last year, now they're coming out with all sorts of different ways to make the smartphone even more accessible to the adapting customer expectations for this year. So I found that fascinating and kind of a George Orwellian future kind of world we're in.
Absolutely. I wonder how much of that last year was drunk commerce too.
Why'd I buy that? I got to return that. Now, how do I return it? The 2 a.m. purchase. Yeah.
That's right. It's real easy to pick that phone up and make that shoe purchase or whatever. It's like, I get it, whatever.
They look great. They look great right now.
That's right.
I love it. That's awesome.
Uh,
And then with there, Steve, when we were talking a little bit on Friday about some of the things that we wanted to talk about, you said something really well that I think is important. It hit me as a professional. I think it might hit some of our guests here today about, we're not salespeople, we're consultants. Don't be that salesperson. If you could expand just a little bit on that real quick. You said it really well. Hopefully you can do it well this time. No pressure, but you said it really well when it was just you and I. Yeah.
That's one of my platforms. I mean, those of us who've been in business development or sales for years, anymore. I mean, years and years past, and I've been doing this for a long time, people sold. But anymore, I don't know about any of you on the line. I don't like to be sold, but I do like it when somebody helps me make a right decision and helps me buy. So that really is our job. Our job, we're consultants. I view myself as a consultant, and I have to understand our customer's business and what they're trying to accomplish and help them do a better job of running their business. And whatever services those may be, for us, it's architecture, engineering, and design services. We need to figure out a way to turn those services on to help them become a better business, and that's consulting. So really, we're consultants, not salespeople.
Yep.
You get into their world, just like retailers need to get into our world as consumers and really understand what motivates us, what we really want, where we're going with this thing, and help us make buying decisions rather than selling us and throwing stuff in our face. I think they'll be much, much more successful. I know it's improved my success with my perspective in the business. The more I consult with them, I'm just trying to help you make a good decision. It's not all about price. It's about what you do get in value on the back end. And I think we can do this for you, for instance, or deliver it this way or that way and bring best practices and things to bear, which I believe retailers can do as well. Change the paradigm a little bit, bring something a little bit different, figure out what customers and consumers really want and deliver it. And that's consulting, not sales.
Yep. And if you're just going into your customer with the same pitch over and over again, you're not doing it right. You study your customer before you go in. I read a book years ago that's something I've taken to heart. You spend a half hour for every 5 minutes or 10 minutes you spend with the customer. You better spend a half hour preparing, learning their business before you walk in there. How do you make yourself as valuable as you can be, if invaluable, where they can't do without you, where they almost feel like they can't do without you? And what Steve said, it's, brought that back home to me. And I thought that was really well said, the way you put it.
Yeah. And it's not just showing up and asking for another order, what else I can do. It's like understanding how their last quarter results were, what happened in the press release about the acquisition they just made or whatever, and what that means for the business. And guess what? It ripples off to a much, much more intelligent discussion. They know that you care about their business. Same thing that retailers should do with customers. They know that you care about them when you do things like that and so on. So I'll jump off that soapbox.
Perfect. That's a good soapbox. And with that, I'm going to talk about a couple products that are really hot for different reasons. Foam core, we know that's going to be invaluable for the holiday season for temporary signage. The tried, true, tested material through the years. And then I just want to talk real quick about Sintra and its use here. It is, if you pull into Applebee's or Chick-fil-A and to-go orders on the curbside, 90% of the time you're looking at a Sintra sign that they put up for curbside. So as that continues to grow, keep in mind Sintra is becoming the preferred product and throughout the entire industry for that new growing market that we have with that. So wanted to mention that. And then another thing, we had on Tim Bennett with Image Options last month. And he said for the first time in his life, he's got not quite as much gray hair as I do, but he's been in it a while. He says for the first time in his life, he's seeing retailers design on the fly, sort of based on availability. So it's very important. If you have the material right now, you're going to get to business. If you don't, it's just the way it is right now with the supply shortages. So can't stress that enough. And then I'll ask before we close up here with just a couple minutes left. I'm not looking at chat. Does anybody have any questions? Throw those into the chat room. We'll give it a couple seconds for that. Let Steve make a final statement on what he thinks, and then if we don't have any questions, we'll close it out till next month.
I don't know if I see the chat. Do you?
It's down on the bottom. I didn't see it until I ran my cursor over it, but it doesn't look like we have any questions. You and I, when we get together, tend to explain things so well that, people pretty much understand everything to a T. So if there's not any questions, I'm going to thank Steve for our first return guest. It's always incredible to pick his mind. We live in the same town, so we go to lunch all the time. So it's amazing to have the ability to pick his mind. So thank you, my friend, for always being available for any questions I have and for good talks. Thank you to Hannah for running things behind the scenes. And we look forward to seeing you next month, where we're going to do a virtual booth visit from a trade show with 3A Composites that we just came back from. So we did some customer visits. So it's kind of a behind the scenes and virtual booth visit at once for Retail X. So same time, same channel next month. And we'll see you then.